Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name's Don Murray, and I'm here with
Dave Campanis.
Yeah, Dave's one of our experts. I'd say when you talk about indoor mapping, Dave Campanis is world class. Maybe somebody within Apple knows more about IMDF than Dave, but that's only a maybe. So anyway, we're going to talk today about how FME provides data integration solutions for airports. So this talk is going to be really high level. We could do a webinar on each of the areas, or in fact, in some cases, just one of the airports we're going to talk about. So the goal of this is you just sit back and relax, and by the end, you should just have an understanding of some of the things that FME can do with regards to data, helping you run your airport. So we're not going to get into any demos with mind-bending transformers or anything like that. As we go through, we will chat out links to webinars and other things that if you want to dive into great detail. Also, if you see anything you're interested in, please do reach out to us. We're here to help, and we have many examples. We have experts like Dave Campanis and others who can really help you get started and also show you, best practices and approaches and things like that. So
yeah, and even if you don't find anything that matches your particular situation, just reach out to us through our support and or our email, and we'll be happy to sort of work out a proof of concept for you.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. So SAFE, we've been in business for 25 years, and right from the start, we focused on working with data. So we've been doing this for like 25 years. We have customers worldwide in 128 countries, and we have 10,000 organizations that rely on us for their data integration, data challenges that every organization has, including SAFE. We are constantly working to make our data better and cleaner so we can get more valuable results out of it. We have a partner network around the world, so no matter where you are, there's likely a partner on the ground, and that's great because it's our partners who do services. We provide amazing support that some of you might think are services, but in fact, we don't do services. We work with our partner network to provide services around the world. There's nothing like face-to-face when you're working with data. So that's really what we strive to do. Okay, our mission is to help organizations maximize the value of data. So that's our mission. When you contact us, our mission is to help you maximize the value of data. So that's really how we can work with you to ensure that you have great data assets, no doubt. And often the challenge is, how do I use that data to facilitate making good decisions? And so that's what we're all about. It's kind of exciting. In May 2017, the Economist announced that the most valuable resource was no longer oil, but data. And so, of course, that was good news to us. We've been working with data for 25 years, and when they came out with that, we're like, yes, of course it is. And so, yeah. There we go. Okay, so some of our technology partners, these are the logos we're allowed to use. There's other large technology partners that we don't have permission to use their logos, so they're not here. But you can see some very big players rely on FME and work very closely with FME to challenge and work with different types of data. Some of the airports and other industry customers that rely on FME, here's their logos. What I did here is I just went and started grabbing logos until I figured the slide was getting a little bit crowded, and then I stopped. So there's many, many more, but this is just some of them. A lot of them are large airports that would be recognizable worldwide, and then there's some smaller ones that are significant to us because they've been amazing partners helping us and supporting us. Like Victoria, for example, which Dave's going to talk about. Just a great partnership we have with them.
Hi, Tim.
Okay, the FME platform, that's what we refer to our technology as. And the FME platform is an enterprise data integration platform, but it's there are other enterprise data integration platforms. FME is the only one that was built from the ground up to deal with location and spatial. Others, location and spatial is kind of an afterthought. And so if you choose them and you're working with a lot of spatial and location data, you're going to hit limits very, very quickly. Whereas with FME, we've always focused on the spatial data and the location data, making sure we do a good job of that. And then all the other kinds of data is just is pretty simple compared to those. Okay. When we talk about data, we talk about an FR platform. We talk about three things: connect, transform, and automate. And connect is just connecting to applications, web services, databases, flat files, devices, anything that has data. We talk about connecting. So when people will often say, do you connect to, DynamoDB? Yes. Do you connect to Salesforce? Yes. And so the first thing is always connect. Of course, once you've connected, then the interesting part is what can you do with the data? And that's the transformation. Often you might just want to perform QA, QC on the data, and that's the type of transformation. Or you may want to bring multiple data sets together to create an indoor map or situational awareness, or who knows what, build a BIM to GIS or whatever. And so that's the transformation part. The automation is when you've built your transformation workflows, now you want to deploy that somewhere so that others can use it, or maybe the system's going to automatically trigger based on new data arriving, or a trigger in a database, or data being delivered to a folder or email. And that's the automation part. And with the release of FME 2019.0 that goes on Tuesday, April 2nd, I wanted to release it on April 1st, but I don't know, I was overruled. So I don't know why. So anyway, so that's the automation, and we'll show a screenshot of that. But in 2019.0, we've just taken that to a whole new level. Now, as far as Connect goes, here are the different kinds of data that the FME data integration platform connects to. And I challenge any other tool out there to connect to as many kinds of data as this. And if you see any kinds of data that we don't do there, let us know, and we will add it. So
definitely, especially if it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see everything from AI/ML that have huge requirements for data, machine learning, particularly on the training side. You've got to get a lot of data in there. AR/VR, which actually works very well with indoor mapping and 3D and BIM. And and point clouds, taking point clouds, trying to generate floor plans. I mean, there's all these things. The intersection of all these is really interesting. While it's interesting to be able to read one type, it really gets interesting when you start combining many of these different types of systems. Of course, once you've transformed, now once you connect, now you can transform the data. And validation is really one of the big things that people use FME for. And when we built FME, we didn't really think about that, but it turns out that there's a lot of data challenges. Often you're repurposing the data, and indoor mapping is a great example. A lot of this data was collected, and indoor mapping wasn't even a thing anybody was thinking about. And so now when you're repurposing data like that, you're going to have to restructure it, so under the modify, to get it into the form, but you're also going to have to validate it to make sure it's actually suitable for the new task. And in some cases it's not, and so you have to look at another approach. In some cases it's close, and then you just have to work to modify the data through some transformers. And of course, the nice thing about FME is that the whole workflow is visual, so we're not targeting a programmer, which is another difference from other enterprise platforms. We're targeting the person who understands the data analyst. Of course, you have to understand the data, but from there, it's a nice visual workflow. Okay. So, and automations, you can see a screenshot there. This is the whole idea of taking one of the workflows you built and now deploying it so that it's triggered on a real-time event or on a schedule. And it's really simple. These things are triggered by data. They're really, again, easy to build now. You just have a nice graphical environment, and there's nothing. The whole automations really eliminates this manual task of running things. You can just set one of these up and then forget about it. So some of the common airport challenges that are going to talk about today: facilities management. How do you improve the operational efficiency of your airport? Indoor mapping, we've got a few really good examples. This is a particularly hot topic. Spatial analysis, and then other things we do that we're not going to really talk about today too much is AIXM and Airspaces. We'll talk about obstacle avoidance, but yeah. Okay. So indoor mapping. Okay, so indoor mapping. There we go. So why are people doing indoor mapping? Well, we all have these nice mobile devices, and when we walk around outside, we know exactly where we are. We can find the nearest store and things like that. But the moment we go into buildings, often now it just becomes this big void, and we see ourselves in the middle of this big square box, and so indoor navigation is one of the big things. Also for organizations who are operating these facilities, when we think about airports, we often think that a good synonym is like they're like a small city. And so how do you manage all the spaces of the city? How do you manage all the infrastructure, or which is called facilities? And that's another use of the indoor mapping. Okay. Interestingly enough, we spend 90% of our time indoors, and we've spent up till now, we've really spent most of our time mapping the out of doors. And so now with indoor mapping, we're starting to really map the indoors. And there's other things that are driving this, devices, IoT devices and things like that, if we can map where those are, then we can increase our operational efficiency, but also learn about things. And also the mobile device, of course, is key to that, because now people can figure out exactly where they are, whereas in the past.
And where they want to go.
And where they want to go, that's right. Indoor mapping, here some of the formats that are that we've worked with. Of course, there's many more, but native Revit reading, that's a big one. So we've added that in 2019.0. Yeah. So if you want to go that to indoor, that's much easier than CAD, would you say, Dave?
Pretty much everything's easier than CAD.
Okay.
So it's not a reflection on CAD itself, more on the type of maps that are made in CAD.
Yeah. And the variation on CAD is just massive. Yeah. I was at a conference where a guy mentioned that he had a CAD file with 20,000 layers. Ooh. And so, and then another guy had a CAD file with 1 layer, which everything was put on the
that's actually worse.
Layer 0. So you can see now if you're going to paper, then the paper just has 1 layer, and so everything it can look great. So anyway, IBM Tririga is a facilities management system, and again, if you have the CAD integration piece there, a lot of the hard work for the floor plans has already been done. Yep. So we read those CAD files, and they're in great shape. And of course, the big indoor formats, OGC Indoor GML, IMDF, which is the Apple-backed format, Here Venue format. We also support SAP HANA, and ArcGIS Indoors. And you can tell by the arrows which ones we read and which ones we write. So there we go. Okay. So some of the challenges with indoor mapping is not the data format. So it's not a syntactic problem. If we look at IMDF, for example, it's a really nice GeoJSON format. And you look at it and you go, oh, this is really a nice format. The challenge is that the semantic models of these formats actually enforce the real world rules. So for example, you can't have a floor, if you have a building floor, with nothing in it. There's no building you walk into and all of a sudden you ask somebody, where did he go? Oh, he entered the no man's space and was kind of just disappeared. Everything is mapped. Also, you don't have any rooms that overlap each other. You don't have, I have an office, Dave has an office. There's no spot where I walk in my office and suddenly I'm in Dave's office, and, there's all the end floor, rooms can't be outside of levels can't be outside of the building footprint, and so on and so on. And so when you start codifying all these rules, it makes moving to the indoor format much more difficult. But of course, once you actually have this, let's call it a digital twin of the real world in IMDF, then now you can really start to make it supports better applications, which I'm sure are coming in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So indoor mapping, this is a new area, and of course it requires 2 things. It requires the floor plans, but it also requires who's using the space. So if you think about a shopping mall or an airport, and airports really are like shopping malls. I mean, I was just in Frankfurt, and man, it was like walking down Robson Street, and but it's important. So if they get the floor plan right, but they don't tell me where Stephanie's favorite store is, Cartier, then she's going to be lost, right? She knows Cartier somewhere in that mall, but she doesn't know where it is. But so you have to also pull the usage information from the facilities management, or maybe it's the lease system, combine it together to have an indoor map that is actually useful. The obvious one at airports is where are the gates, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, but you have to, and those are going to come from different systems, but that's okay. FME can read anything. And the other challenge is I can't remember the last time I was in an airport where they're not changing. Every single airport seems to be under construction. I left Frankfurt, it was under construction. I arrived in Vancouver, it's under construction. Everything is always under construction. And buildings are like that. And so you need a way to constantly, once you build your workflow, you need a way to automate that so you can constantly run it to update as the venues are changing. And so the idea with FME is we're going to hide the details so you can focus on just building the model and not worry about it. And we'll see a screenshot a little bit later on the IMDF validator that we show you. You do not ever need to understand it, but it gives you an idea of the complexity and the rules that you have to apply to this. Okay, so yeah, so with FME, it's really quite simple. You have to find your floor plans. Yep. And it could be CAD, they could be in other systems. And then you have to convert your floor plans into an indoor mapping format. Now you could decide to do that step first and then later add the lease information, or you could do it all at once. That's up to you, and there are pluses and minuses on both. When it comes to CAD, sometimes you're going to find CAD data that's so bad that it's really not.
No, it's yeah. Sometimes you just can't make it work with indoor, but there are tools in AutoCAD, and also Esri's got a new product out, Esri Indoors, where they try to help you. And essentially, you're redigitizing the data. But that in some ways that's okay. It's almost some way faster to make a very simple floor plan data rather than trying to hammer all this complex CAD data that looks really pretty when you print it, but doesn't make any sense topologically. Sometimes you just got to go do sort of quick and dirty floor plan, make your polygons nice, because ultimately it's a question of scale, right? You're going to get this from distance. You're not zooming into like a corner from 3 feet away, right?
And that's a good example of where CAD data is being repurposed for indoor. CAD drawings were often made for building construction, and so they have an amazing amount of detail in them. When you're going to indoor, you do not care about how the rooms were constructed. It's irrelevant. You just want to know the spaces, where the doors are, where the halls are, and things like that. So yeah, and of course validation. We'll talk a little bit more about validation. And the nice thing with FME is you don't write code. You just simply use our visual environment.
That's true. Although if you really want to write code, we can make that happen.
That's true. If you really want to write code, you can. And in fact, I was at a world tour stop and somebody said to me, hey, the only transformer I need is a Python caller. And then they wrote everything in Python. So yes, that's an extreme.
They probably don't want to tell their boss that.
No,
but,
no. So yeah, so the way the workflow for indoor data is, you got to find all the data sets, and that often can be a big task. Just, okay, where is the source data that I need in order to build my my indoor map? And then you got to prepare it for output. Then you validate it, and then, oh, it didn't validate, so now you got to go back again, and maybe you got to prepare for output again and try again. But then, oh, you might find that you're actually missing some data, and so then, you know, it's an iterative process until you actually get the data out to the output. Yeah. And so with FME, yes, there's also this whole notion of georeferencing, which means moving the building to the correct locations. Like when I've looked at a CAD drawing, I've never seen the rooms and everything specified in lat-long coordinates. For construction.
Generally on a local coordinate system, because everybody who's at the building knows where the building is.
That's right.
Because they're there.
That's right. Yeah.
But when you're trying into locational services using GPS on your phone, the GPS knows where in the world you are, and it really wants to relate that to the map that you're seeing.
Yeah. So the whole building, every single point needs to be moved to a lat-long coordinate system, and so that has its own set of challenges. You might not know where the building is, but the nice thing for indoors, you don't have to be that accurate. You're not actually building the building. So we've had success just by going online and
figuring out where it is, doing a little angle calculations and throwing in an offsetter or two.
Yeah. And then you can see the other ones there, and cleaning is just the data QA. So yeah. So validating IMDF, we've built a nice little validator on the website. You can see it's safe.com/IMDF. You can drag your file up there when you're going out to IMDF, and in 15 minutes later, you'll get a validation report.
Yeah.
If that's too slow, then on our FME Hub, we have this thing called the IMDF Validator. This is a transformer built by Dave and Dean, probably. Yep. And this is updated all the time as we learn more about the IMDF, or they come out with new validation rules. And the nice thing there is you can use that within our FME platform, and you can validate your data sets much more quickly, say on the order of a minute, I'm going to say.
Yeah, the service is good for a first shot at it.
Yeah.
You just want to check your file, make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
Once you're digging down into trying to find the difficulties, then I think the transformer works better, just because it gives you more information on its output.
Yeah.
In the report, we give you a couple of fields that we tell you the most important things about the issue, but in the output from the transformer, it gives you the IDs of everything it connects to and what its IDs are, and it's probably a better tool for getting deep into your file and fixing it up.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if you're going to IMDF, if you do not use the IMDF validator, the chance that your IMDF data set is valid is almost zero. Like and so then if you submit it to Apple and it's invalid, they're just going to send it back. But they won't send it back within 15 minutes. It's going to be days, weeks. I'm going to say, I don't know exactly how long, but it's going to be, and so that's really going to be a painful iterative experience, both for you and also for the receiver of IMDF Apple on the other end. So by using the validator, now you're going to be in 15 minutes. By using the transformer with FME, you've cut your iterations much closer, which is more cost effective for you and for everybody. And yeah, now we can't guarantee that if it goes through the IMDF validator, it's going to go through Apple. But if you do use the IMDF validator and then Apple flags it, let us know what it is, because the IMDF validator lives on the hub, and then we will update the IMDF validator so that it doesn't do that again. And so the goal is, over time, we're going to become asymptotically close to basically 100% validation. But this is sort of like trying to get to the speed of light. You may never actually get there, but already the IMDF validator is super close. And we know people are using it and going through the validator and then being passed by Apple. So yeah. Okay, so this is, remember I talked about FME hiding the details. This is just an example. Oh, this is an older one too. It's actually even bigger now.
Oh, twice the size.
Oh, twice the size now. So yeah, and of course, the nice thing about FME with this transformer, you download it, you use it, you don't have to worry what's going on underneath. But it's a nice piece of work.
But it is actually editable. So if you do want to actually dive down into the logic to figure exactly what's going wrong, you can.
You can if you really want to.
Yeah.
And if you totally mess it up, you can just download it again.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. So so now let's look at a couple of airports that are doing indoor. Okay, the first one, Schiphol. Schiphol has had the goal of being the biggest airport in Europe. They did that. They wanted to be the airport that handled the most number of passengers per year. They did that. Now they're really focusing on how can they have the best customer experience. And one of the things, of course, to have the best customer experience is you have to help people when they're inside your airport. We're going to assume they actually found the airport and they could get inside. And so clearly one of the biggest things is when you're inside an airport is how do you find your way around? Because every airport is different, and Schiphol is a big airport.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So there you go. So the best customer experience. We're going to talk a little bit about them now on the digital sharing and open data, but later, and when we talk about smart airports, we're going to talk about that one even further, which is really exciting. And this whole indoor wayfinding and navigation, they've built their own apps. Okay. And we'll see those later. Now, some of the challenges, of course, that everybody has, if you're working with data, the challenge everybody has is data quality. And IT architecture, of course, things are moving so fast. We're often, stuck with older IT architecture. Okay. So the workflow, again, bringing all the source data together, validating it, enhancing it, making sure the quality is right, and then building the routing and navigation floor plans and points of interest and all the shopping information that they got, so that at Schiphol, Steph would be able to find her Cartier store. And yeah. I don't even know if she likes Cartier. I'm just making this stuff up. Who doesn't? That's right. So, and then they're distributing it to a variety of mapping systems. Okay. So here's some of the apps they have. So you can see the Skipple Wayfinder. That's their own app that basically helps you understand the time. You can see they have a little AR app there. So as you're walking down, you can kind of see there's a Cartier scarf on there for $15. So that's a real deal. Yeah, and things like that. You can see the, you can get directions to the gates, and you can see an overview. And basically the idea is with your mobile device, you should be able to find your way around their airport. So that's thing. Some of their goals is to create a digital twin. And again, we'll see that when we talk about smart airports. And the nice thing about a digital twin is now you can start to run simulations, and you can get more time. When you have real-time sensors in your digital twin, you can now start to see what's going on in real time. You can also start to leverage crowdsourcing things for, hey, this water fountain's broken. Oh, this floor here is slippery. This escalator broke, and things. And of course, it's spatial and tabular data, like everything. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to learn a lot about Skipple, there's a whole webinar on just Skipple, and I hope I say that right. Skipple, did I say that right?
Oh, I'm the wrong person to ask.
And they said that FME is the ETL glue between geo platforms that help keep their systems up to date and the same. So that is a really quick overview of indoor mapping at Skipple. So now I'm going to hand it over to you, and you're going to talk about Victoria.
Victoria, yeah, this is a special case for us, and thanks to the good people at Victoria Airport, is that they shared our data with us, and they allowed us to share their data with you. And so that allowed us to put together a good a tutorial on creating IMDF. And the nice thing about Victoria is that it's a small airport, but yet it's an international airport. So it has all of the features you'd expect to find in any airport, but at the same time, it's small, and you've got a fairly small data set to work with. And the data they provided us was nice and topologically clean. So there's not, so you can concentrate on the mechanics of going from, in this case, geodatabase to IMDF without worrying too much about the cleanliness and quality of the data. So this, like I said, it's our main tutorial. Yeah, this is just a basic workflow. We read the ArcGIS, georeferencing, cleaning. It's a little bit of cleaning. I mean, nothing's ever perfectly perfect. The other fun part about IMDF is that it's in lat long, and it's limited to 7 decimal places in lat long, which is about a centimeter resolution. So when you're rounding off to centimeters, oftentimes your data is more precisely located than that. Sometimes you get issues that have to be fixed from the rounding. So, but essentially we're starting with rooms, and we're starting with basically rooms in a venue and some points, and we're building up the entire IMDF data set from just that. So it's a bit of a complex workspace, but it's all laid out, and as a tutorial, you know, we've laid it out, we've documented as much as possible. So it's a good one to start with.
So if I get this data, I download it and I work through the tutorial, I'll really have a great understanding of IMDF by the time
you should by the time you're done. It covers, and like I said, it's mostly the IMDF part. We don't really do a whole lot of data cleaning and stuff, so that's a nice one to start with.
Okay.
Okay. The other example we're doing here is another local airport, YVR. They also used FME to create IMDF. And the other thing you can do with FME is you can read the IMDF files you've put out, or read the IMDF files you get from other airports. And if you want to do some other applications like visualizing and seeing just what it looks like, you do that in FME. So in this case, we've taken that IMDF file, and on the left-hand side, we've taken some of the FME tools. We've elevated the data to the various levels. We've extruded that 2D data to make nice 3D data. We've color-coded it by its function, and then we kick it out to a 3D PDF, which is kind of nice because everyone's got PDF on their desktop. They can take a look at it.
Right, and you can turn on and off levels and things depending. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it actually, the 3D PDF actually supports a lot of attribution, which makes it quite nice. Yeah. The other possible visualization tool is Google Earth. So we can create the 3D solids for Google Earth, output those. In this case, it's almost like a bit of a jello cube model, so you can see through to the Earth underneath.
Yeah, and you can see how well it lines up with the because that image in the background is Google Earth. It's not anything we wrote. Yeah,
exactly. So these are just ways you can actually take your data and visualize it to make it more useful for people on their desktop.
Yeah, yeah, and with IMDF, of course, you have to get your building in the right location. By quickly going out to KML like this, you can actually see how close you are.
This is true.
And if you're, if you're off by 100 feet, you would see it right away, and then you can make the adjustments.
Yeah, and quite frankly, Google Earth, if I get a data set that isn't geo-referenced, but I know where it is, Google Earth is generally my tool that I use. It's got good tools for measuring and measuring angles and measuring distances, so it's good for getting the scale and the location right and the angle right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, another example of usage of FME for airport purposes is San Francisco. Now, in this case, they're doing a kind of a multi-step process. They're importing data from the various sources, and they're putting it into their staging database. So they've got GIS, they've got airport map models, and they're using FME to take those, transform them, and put them into the staging database, which is a PostGIS database. Then once that's done, they're using another FME process to write it to the various indoor formats. So here, IMDF, KML, which you use for visualization, or indoor GML.
Yeah, and this one's nice because what they wanted to do is they wanted to have one staging they didn't want to just have a whole format that went to, say, IMDF. They wanted to have all their internal systems go to, as Dave said, the staging database, and then from there have workflows that go out. So then their staging database supports all the different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we might want to clarify for a bit is that IMDF is what we call presentation format.
Right.
It's a fairly limited format. It's got very tight business rules, but it's fairly limited format, and it's designed to do one thing, which is get your data into Apple Maps. Yeah. With the staging database they have here is just the.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Okay.
It's the ACI Airport GIS schema. Sorry, I had to read that off. Which is an extension of the ACRIS semantic model. So there's a semantic model that people have built for airport data. They've extended it with a geospatial component. And this is their central database that allows, and this is where they keep track of all their data. And it's a more general storage format that allows them to do all sorts of things that aren't, limited to IMDF. It's not limited to lat long. It's, it's all different coordinate systems. So that's the other thing you might want to consider is that, some of these formats we talk about are cool, but really, if you're talking data storage, you probably want to look at some sort of database.
Yeah, and if this schema becomes adopted by many airports, then the nice thing is the stuff on the right-hand side of that ACI AGIS schema bubble could be shared amongst airports.
Yeah, so it becomes standardized.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a great leverage of effort there if that can pass. So we're pretty excited about that, and I know the folks at SFO are excited about that too.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So so some of the things people are using it for, wayfinding, of course, finding out where you are. Now, right now within the Apple Indoor Maps, if for air facilities you can see where you are and you can see where the thing is, and you figure out yourself how to get there. But we can imagine in the future that'll be like outside, and you would, Also, asset tracking, of course, and by geolocating your assets and your devices. Now, you could imagine you have heating units all over the place. Wouldn't it be nice if when a heating unit failed, you could look at your indoor map and see something red flashing, rather than knowing heating unit J35C is down, and then going to a book and saying, oh, it's in terminal across from. You can start to see how the whole asset and facilities management aspect starts to really take off. So okay. So, and some of the airports that are using it, there's others, but these are some of the ones that we've dealt with so far. Yeah. Okay, situational awareness. Okay, so on this, situational awareness is interesting. For this one, LA was an airport we worked with, and they wanted to, support airport response to issues, incidents that people could report for using an iPad in the field. and they wanted it all tied together to support disparate applications. And really, again, there's a full story there. If you click there, you'll be able to see the full story about this, but we just wanted to talk about this one really quickly, because this challenge is really all about, this is a great data integration challenge. In order to get a great situational awareness, you have to pull together many systems. So you can see I've highlighted Maximo. If you go to SAFE, you're going to look for Maximo, and you're not going to see it there, but Maximo has an API. So with SAFE, you can easily call Maximo. So they called Maximo. They also called another system called PropWorks, and you can see all the different types of data that they were pulling together. We just highlighted the ones that we thought were interesting, and the ... means there were many others. So what they did is they brought all this data together so they could get a single view of all the things going on, and they use the transformation capabilities of FME to tie them together in an intelligent fashion. So yeah, so there we go, share out data automatically. They also build a redundant database. If there was some stuff that was mission critical from different systems, and sometimes the source system, it might take some time to pull the data, what they would do is they'd pull all what they deemed it to be the mission critical data together to build a redundant database. So then they weren't reliant on another system, so that they could really respond in a timely fashion. And yeah, so that's what they did there. And some of the airports, again, that we've worked with situational awareness are right there. So yeah, okay, smart airports. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit about this, and again, we're going to talk about Skipple. So this is smart airports is pretty exciting. There's a number of layers, and so I'm not going to talk about all the details, but what Skipple's doing is at the highest level you have applications. Now these applications could be written by anybody, and that's really the key. Is they're defining a set of APIs and services on top of their data, and through those APIs and services, now if you I'm sure you have to do some paperwork, but once you get access to this data, now really what Skipple's enabled is the whole world of application developers to use their creative, ingenuity to build new things on top of that. Of course, underneath these services are APIs, and underneath that is the data. So you can see, the levels that FME plays at, certainly getting the data all pulled together to support the APIs. We can also build APIs with FME Server and also services. So once you build that, now you can really start to take your airport to the next level by empowering others to build on top of it. And again, it's all about customer experience at the end of the day. So yeah. And so again, this whole idea of pulling all the data together is really key, and FME is the glue. You can see real-time sensors optimizing your geospatial data to support these new applications. And yeah, so enough on that. And some of the smart airports that we're working with projects are, you can see them there. So yeah. And now, obstacle avoidance.
Yeah, we're just going to move away from the whole indoor part of the airports thing, because there's lots of outdoor parts of airports as well.
There are.
And obstacle avoidance and airspace planning, that's probably something you want to do. You want to avoid your obstacles, and you also want to make sure people don't build new obstacles in your airspace.
That's right.
So the first thing is, example we're going to talk about is done by Finavia, the Finnish airport authority.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
they're responsible for all the airports in Finland, are they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a few high places in Finland.
Yes.
So what they wanted to do is they wanted to extract the high areas around the airports and map them out for people. So when you're planning your air routes and stuff, you have an idea where not to send your airplanes. So this is basically what they're doing. They're analyzing the ground model. They're taking LiDAR data to analyze the ground model, and then they're producing the maps. So this is a fairly straightforward workspace. We use a lot of the point cloud tools. Point cloud filter mostly is to basically extract all the points above a certain elevation threshold. Mm-hmm. So you just want to see the high places. You don't want to see the low places.
Right. See, yeah.
So and that's the example of the output. So you can see cannot pronounce this, Kemi Airport, but there's quite an area in the northeast there that they really want to avoid.
Right.
And this kind of makes it easy when you're, to give this to people and show them, so when they're doing their planning work, they just know what to avoid rather than having to go through contour maps and such.
Exactly. So they can easily see where not to send planes.
And the heat map works really nicely, right? So
nice.
Okay, the other thing you can do is you have the obstacle limitation surface, and now this is a Vancouver airport, and there's been a lot of construction in Vancouver recently. And I live in Richmond, which is out by the airport, and there's a lot of construction going on there. And you want to make sure with all this construction that you're not sort of intruding into the airspaces. So what they've done is they've generated sort of obstacle limitations on their airspaces, and they check with the planning. If somebody wants to build a tall building, they've got to make sure they don't intrude into the airspace. There's a certain buffer.
I know we also did this for McLaren Airport in Las Vegas.
McCarran.
Yeah,
Airport,
McCarran. That's it.
Also a city that's being built up quite spectacularly.
Yes. So. And there's actually a tower that was being planned, and the airport used FME and this precise thing that Dave's talking about to make the argument to council that if they actually put this tower there, the capacity of the airport would be negatively impacted. And so as a result, they didn't build it because the airport is the lifeblood of Las Vegas.
Yeah, you want the people and their money to keep
going. That's right, yeah. So,
So, I mean, and the basic process was you can get your flight obstacles from Excel data. So you use the capability of FME to work with different data sources. So we read from Excel, we output to HTML reports. We can also write out that information to Oracle database. So it doesn't matter what your data is in, we can make it work. We can all make it work together. And that's an example of the flight obstacle map. And it looks like this is a validation report, I believe, and we're basically we have no georeferencing, so we're out in the middle of nowhere. That's the example of that. Okay, so airspace visualization, you can also visualize your control areas, your ILS flight paths and stuff. Which gives you a good idea what's going on at the airport. So the beauty of the visualization is FME supports visualization engine. So we support the Unreal Engine, which is the game engine that makes really nice 3D. We also output to Cesium, which is an online 3D mapping that can gives you the ability to visualize massive data sets very quickly. And of course, Google Earth, which is the old standby.
And also I3S, which we saw previously, but for some reason it didn't make that slide, but that's me. And so so Esri I3S is the other one. Oh, here we go. There we go.
It was coming up. So I3S is kind of cool in that it's got levels of detail. So as you zoom in and out, the different details turn on and off, and that also makes your data set
so we support so we support the three big sort of global 3D visualizations. So we support Cesium, Google Earth, of course, and I3S, and they all have this ability we're seeing here where you zoom in, you get more detail. When you zoom out, you get less detail. Okay.
So here's when it comes to 3D data, why inspect it when you can experience it? And that's the key, is that the 2D maps only go so far, especially with folks who aren't sort of map aware. They're not used to it. But 3D data, you can grasp 3D data. You can grasp relationships in 3D data that are very hard to see in 2D data. So if you let people visualize things, all of a sudden they know what they're looking at. You get much better feedback.
And the picture on the left is interesting because those mountains actually were also imported from a data set by FME. So we actually built an Unreal data set that had the real mountains, and then we decided to put a floating building in the middle of the water. But all this was integrated with FME just because we can read so many different types of information. Of course, if you put a building with imported data on the location it's going to be, you could actually, when you look outside the windows, you could actually see what the person inside the building would really see. So, and that's the beauty of being able to integrate this data and throw it into a system like Unreal.
And if you're building something like a hotel, and where the visual quality, your outside visual quality is one of the things you're selling, that is something you can sell to people, right?
That's right.
Or you can plan ahead of time.
That's right. Or if there's something you really don't want them to see, you could decide, okay, we're not going to put a window there. And so at the very beginning of SAFE, we were GIS and CAD, and I was at a show once, and the guy says, "Oh, you've done the third leg," and I was like, "Great!" And then he says, and I said to immediately I said, "What is the third leg?" And he said, "BIM." And so, you know, GIS and CAD, we've been working with them together, going CAD to GIS, GIS to CAD. And BIM really, in many cases, is supplanting CAD for designing buildings and things like that. So Autodesk has CAD, they have BIM. And so the nice thing with BIM, and when we start talking about these 3D models and indoor mapping and all these things, you know, we need to integrate BIM and get it into the right location with GIS. Maybe we want to see our buildings in the GIS, so maybe we only want the outer shell. Maybe we want our building in GIS. We want it such that when we enter, now we see the inside. So this is really the gap of the merging of the outdoor and the indoor. That's really what we're trying to say here is, you know, GIS is outdoor, BIM is indoor. We want to support this seamless transition, certainly with navigation of moving indoors and outdoors. So, yeah. So Denver, is another airport we work with. They have their GIS for all their CAD as built, and their CAD exports are lines where the line work only. Yeah, so you can just see this. Denver is a massive airport, and they had data with rooms, numbers that were all entered manually, but it's a huge 18 million square feet. That's amazing. I was just at a conference, and the fellow there was talking about just the number of rooms in Denver, and it was mind-boggling underneath all the public spaces, and you know, there's also a lot of nice theories on conspiracy theories about what goes on in Denver, but yeah, and of course, updating all this is a real nightmare, right? And that's really what this is all about. Okay. There we go. So BIM is a new standard. So Revit, we're seeing this more and more facilities when they're building new buildings. Revit is really what it started at, right from the ground up. And the idea is when a building is delivered, you also deliver the Revit model. And the Revit model is great for maintenance. And as the buildings change, you keep that Revit model up to date. Again, that's a digital twin of the building, and it can really enable you to manage the facilities much better than it can by having these 2D CAD. Let's face it, if you look at a 2D CAD drawing that was used for building and then you look around the real room, it's a very difficult transition from one to the other. And so that's kind of the idea there.
Yeah, the other advantage of BIM is that it allows you to enforce standards easier than CAD. I mean, CAD, yeah, you print out your standards and you hope that all your CAD operators adhere to them. In BIM, you can actually code those standards into the template itself.
Yeah.
And sort of the nature of the BIM modeling is such that all your data in a way it kind of comes pre-cleaned for you, because it's a three-dimensional wall, so you don't have to worry if the lines don't join or anything, because it's a wall. It's in proper shape in three dimensions already. So it's a whole several steps above CAD data when it comes to data cleanliness.
Yeah, that's a good point. Going back to the data quality and the data validation, we also have a number of organizations. They do have a CAD standard. And so I was just in Germany talking with an organization about how often we can have them. They have a CAD standard, and then they have third-party contractors actually go and collect the data. And the problem was the data was coming back, and it wasn't exactly in the CAD standard. So, but they wouldn't find out till later as they were starting to process it. So we were talking about FME could help them with that, because like we have our IMDF validator, we could work with them to set up a CAD validator that would run all the rules that were necessary for their CAD standard, so that then the contractor could then, through a website or an email or something, email them in, they validate and get the response back. And this would actually save the contractor time as well, and be a tool that would make them better, and also make the other partner, because what happens now is the person will be in the field, they collect the data, they send it in, and then they go home, and then a week or so later they would say, oh, that data you submitted was invalid. So that's very expensive for everybody. Yeah. And here are some of the organizations that we're working on BIM and GIS projects. So clearly, if an organization has Revit files, that's where you want to start.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, data quality.
And there was a little bit of foreshadowing going on there.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So now we're going to talk about data quality and validation.
Yeah, see, I got excited, I forgot that was next. So there you go. Okay, sorry, Dave.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already mentioned the IMDF validator that's online. That's probably our biggest validation project to date, in-house anyway. I'm sure our customers can say different. But we also have, and I should say that IMDF validator, as you saw before, is just completely run in a single FME workspace.
Yeah.
And what we do have is, as well as your regular sort of transformers like the tester and a spatial filter that can be used for validation as well as other things, we have some focused validation transformers that you see here. Attribute validator, JSON validator, etc. Geometry validator, which is actually quite powerful and can actually clean up a lot of your data too.
That's right.
So using these tools, it allows you to put together a validation workspace, but it also allows you to validate while you're building. And this is key sometimes too, especially if you've got some sort of intake process from contractors. Is that you can set up a process that your data uploads, your contractor uploads the data, and you bring it into your storage system. But you can validate it at the same time, and if you get too many errors or you get any errors, depending on the threshold you want, you can bounce it back to them and say, hey, it didn't meet the specs, and we want you to fix these things, and you can give them an HTML list of what's wrong with it. So here's kind of an example: CAD validation of writing to PostGIS. So the CAD files come in, they get validated before they get written to PostGIS, and again, if they don't pass the validation, they get bounced back with a report. So that's and I mean, we've talked a lot about validation kind of all through this talk, and that's a very important part of making sure your data is clean, your data is fit for the purpose, and we can definitely help you out with that.
So so there we go. That's a whirlwind tour. So if you feel like you've been drinking through a fire hose, then that's kind of probably what was our goal, was to just leave you with some things to think about. We totally expect that if you have questions, you'll reach back to us, and we are here to help. So so if you have there's so many data challenges, there's no way that we could talk about them all, but so we just kind of wanted to give you a survey. But please do reach out to us if you have any questions at all, and this is what we do. So and really the common theme with everything these days is really about data. It all depends, no matter what industry people are in, no matter what they're trying to do, often it's the data challenge that is the key one to being able to make really well-informed decisions, and we're here to help. So there we go. This is the platform, desktop, server, and cloud, and we have lots of free resources. So live chat, if you go to our website, you'll see we have live chat in the bottom on every page, and you can type in there, and that'll get you directly in touch with us. And we really encourage that. Lots of tutorials and webinars, and we have online courses. They're all free. They are instructor-led, which is nice, because then if you have a question, you can ask in the course. It's not just sort of a bot that you go through. They're live, they're hands-on. We spin up machines for you, so you don't have to worry about you're being exposed to the internet internally or anything like that, which is great for lots of organizations. And then on demand, there's many courses that are video and demo, and we have an amazing knowledge base that we have a team here who's constantly updating to teach people or answer questions on how they can use FME. Go ahead.
Just saying, we did have a question in the QA there that corresponds to this, and Sonia is asking, when you work with the airports, are you contracted to help them with this process? And the answer to that is no. We don't actually, as Don mentioned before, we don't do services. However, we have partners that we can hook you up to with the services. However, we realize that FME is a toolkit. It's not a turnkey program. So we have all these free resources to get you used to it and get started. We have examples and such. But for a new field like this that we're diving into with mad abandon, we're happy to sort of help you out because we're helping ourselves out at the same
right.
time. We're working to figure out what our customers are doing.
Yeah.
So we'll help you out to get you started with initial
Yeah.
workspaces, proofs of concept, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we can't bring you to a complete turnkey solution.
No.
That's what we have our partners for.
That's right. But you'll be surprised with how much help you will get from us. FME is a technical tool, so we definitely don't, our model definitely is get you to install it and then magic happens.
Yeah.
So as far as how to get FME, there's a number of approaches. There's the enterprise subscription, which basically enables you to, for an annual rate, you can get up to a certain amount of desktop servers, whatever you want. And we have that. And then we have individual license purchases as well. And we have our FME cloud, which enables you to, access that and use it. And it has a pay by the hour as well as an annual rate. So lots of options there. Yeah. And so with that, I see Dean's been and Steph have been answering questions, so that's great. And so any other questions? So anyway, we want to thank. We'll hang around for a few minutes for sure, but we just want to thank everybody for attending. We know you're all really busy, and we really appreciate your time you spent with us this morning or this afternoon. For us, so we really appreciate that. And thanks, Dave, for all your work and for showing up early in the morning for this.
No, you're welcome. Happy to help, and happy to help you guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. So please do reach out to us. That's one of the things that Safer really take pride in, is the fact that we provide great service.
And we really want to know what people are doing with our tool.
Absolutely.
It makes us feel glad to think it's quite useful.
Exactly. Yeah, we find it fun. Helping people is really what we enjoy doing, and meeting people. We have the world tour coming up, so take a look at Steph will Slack that link. It starts next week and goes for 10 days. And if you're in North America or in Europe, we have locations all over the world. So please do sign up. It's $25 in North America, but we give that to the food bank of the local city. So it's really just so we can estimate the amount of food that we need to get. But do come. It's a great day. We're always excited to meet and talk to our users and also our prospective users or anybody who's just interested in having a fun day of learning what FME can do. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Do we want to stick around a bit for questions?
Sure.
AIXM. Oh, that's Dean.
Yeah. Asking if we're going to have a webinar in the future.
We could have a technical webinar on that. So somebody asked if they shared that they'd be interested in the AIXM only webinar. So we should follow up with that. I won't share their name because some people don't like that. We should follow up with them and see what aspects they would be interested in, because there's AIXM 4.5, there's AIXM 5.
Oh, there is a question I'd like to throw out to the audience there, is if anyone's even contemplating doing digital notams.
Right.
Because I believe that's AIXM to submit those, and that's because we have an AIXM writer. It's something that we would be interested in sort of pioneering or prototyping, just to see if anyone wants to do it.
Yeah, because we have a Eurocontrol uses us for AIXM, Nav Canada, FAA. So we have lots of people using AIXM, reading and writing, going from one to the other. And we have an AIXM expert here, which is Dean, and I know he'd be excited about it, and I would definitely take part in that too. So yeah. And conferences, we will be at the number of conferences later in the world. There's a big one in AAAE, I'm going to say, in Boston.
Yeah, in June.
In June. Is that in June? Wow, it's going to be before we know it. And so we. Oh, good. So. We'll definitely follow up with those folks, at Nav Canada. So so we'll be happy to meet anybody there. The airport space is really starting to take off. You like that pun there? Yeah. So good. It was pretty bad, I know. So good. Okay.
Well, it looks like, unless there aren't any more questions that come in, we might close this down. But special thanks to all the airports. I know there's a lot of you guys online whose stories we actually shared, like Schiphol, Victoria, YVR. San Francisco. I think we mentioned Las
And there's ones we
Vegas.
missed too that
Yeah.
as I looked at the list, okay, there was Portland we missed, and they do amazing things with FME. We could do a webinar just on the things they do.
Yeah.
And then there was also CTAP, Port of Seattle, Seattle Airport. And so the list just goes on and on. So I
Yeah.
apologize to those I've missed. But it's exciting, and we really do appreciate all the support you've given us. So.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, we will close this down. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for attending.